going for the symbiote here, though. If you're concerned about being hit by 1-for-1 spells or even sweepers, this insulates him at least a little bit.
Still find symbiote anyway. Hand, we have Reclamation Sage, Birchlore Rangers, or a Quirion Dryad, it looks like. Swing with Nettle Sentinel, though, from Andrew Jessup. Putting Ely actually down to 12. As he'll play a 4th land here, and we pass back to Kassis.
And those 2 fetch lands, they do represent Dryad Arbors here, too. So you just instant speed, add a couple creatures to his battlefield. The unfortunate reality is that this is Legacy, and Ely's deck can sweep the board at instant speed on Jessup's turn with Terminus if he sets that up. Ely plays Scowling Tarn's land for the turn. That's land number 4. Looks like 6 cards still in hand. And going back to Jessup, it looks like.
And you don't know whether this is a sign of strength or weakness here. I mean, Kassis has got a full grip of cards. You see Counterbalance in hand, not going to that yet, even though he has Sensei's Divining Top.
Also has Brainstorm, so Swords to Plowshares, a lot of good spells in that hand.
If Ely is... There's no way with those kind of spells in hand that Ely is behind. It seems like this is what being ahead looks like to him.
Right. It's difficult for the Elves deck to really win out of nowhere. It's a deck that doesn't really have reach. What Ely doesn't want to have happen is he doesn't want to too aggressively go for some 1-for-1s and then just find himself in a position where Jessup has a really good glimpse of nature turn. He just wants to conservatively use these spot removal spells where they really matter.
Andrew will continue to tentatively put cards onto the board. Quirion Ranger will be cast, looking to untap Nettle Sentinel. That's going to work. And he'll swing for 4. A lot of chip damage in. That's what Jessup is looking for. And Ely will start playing. Swords to Plowshares on Wirewood Symbiote. We'll see if Andrew wants to bounce anything. He does not. So he's going to use it to pick up that Ranger again. Just in case Terminus lies in wait, he'll untap Heritage Druid. There's still 3 damage coming in. Kassis down to 9, assuming there's no Terminus.
It'd be very strange to sequence Swords into Terminus.
Well, no, I mean, if Andrew Jessup hadn't bounced the Quirion Ranger, I think he would be fine with Terminus here.
Sure.
Might still do it anyway. You see him tapping Sensei's Divining Top. Not to Terminus, just to shuffle it away.
Yeah, he's done with that one.
This is an interesting line. So Ely has Counterbalance in hand. And doesn't want Divining Top.
Perhaps there's a backup top available already.
Looks like you have a grip of blue cards. That might be enough, though. Snapcaster Mage on Swords to Plowshares. There's this issue that Andrew doesn't want to commit into Terminus, but if Andrew goes too slow, then this plan of Snapcasters into Swords can actually beat him. Snapcaster blocking Nettle Sentinel. Swords taking care of Heritage Druid. Ely's just not taking any damage. Who needs Terminus?
Yeah.
And really good bind here. Getting Andrew to play slow enough that this plan can work. Andrew then will recast the Ranger. His hand, though, just Reclamation Sage and Abrupt Decay. Looking worse and worse as this goes on. You see Ely with land 5, and it looks like Jace the Mind Sculptor in hand. Now he can't cast Jace and unsummon the Ranger because of the threat of Dryad Arbors.
Yeah, they would just attack the Jace down. The unsummon ability puts Jace to 2 loyalty, and Jessup representing 2 power here, as he does fetch 1 Dryad Arbor at end step. Now considering whether or not he wants to find the second one. which he decides to do. With the way that Ely just used Swords to Plowshares, Snapcaster's Swords to Plowshares on the previous turn, it certainly suggested that he did not have access to Terminus. He also shuffled away his Sensei's Divining Top, what makes it harder to produce one on future turns.
Right, so I think at the point that he shuffles at the top, Andrew knows Ely no longer has Terminus, but with the damage that was done, he may not need it.
Andrew's so low on cards, too, where he really just has to make this play and try to get aggressive and just cross his fingers, hope it works.
Andrew on tap, 3 power still on the board. Abrupt Decay and Reclamation Sage in hand. Draws, and now it looks like Ely during draw step will go for a Vendilion Click. 3/1 Fairy with Flash certainly will trade with any of Andrew's creatures. And he'll get a look at Jessup's hand. It's possible that Ely doesn't even take any cards. Andrew drew a basic forest this turn. So with click on the stack, Andrew will Abrupt Decay. Reclamation Sage and Basic Forest. See if how much Ely even cares about the Sage.
Yeah, these ones are probably just fine.
Well, he does have a counterbalance in hand, so there's some. He might take Reclamation Sage.
He also has a Force of Will in hand. The Sage is probably less good for Jessup than if he had to wheel it and just found another 1-drop, because then he'd be able to attack for 3 and commit another creature to the battlefield. Especially just because Ely has the Force of Will to block for his counterbalance on top of that.
We have our second match result here from the top 8. Nate Barton, the number 2 seed, playing Grixis Delver, a 2-0 win over Chris Allen's Infect deck.
That matchup is generally pretty favorable for the Grixis deck.
Yeah, Chris Allen able to dodge it once, win it once, not able to do it twice. Jessup swings in with Dryad Arbors over here on the main match. Kassis will Brainstorm. Is the top card Terminus? Well, not yet.
He hangs back his Ranger. He doesn't want to trade that one with Snapcaster Mage.
Looks like there's a white card that was found here by Kassis. It wasn't the top one. It certainly wasn't Miracle. You see Predict. And some white card in his hand. He's going to put them both on top. So Kassis ready to take some damage here. Yeah, so Jessup didn't swing Ranger.
Yeah. Didn't want to walk that one into into a Snapcaster Mage.
Sure.
The Ranger has the ability to return a Dryad Arbor to his hand in case he gets Terminus.
Looks like Kassis picked up a Containment Priest out of the sideboard. That actually helps, against cards like Green Sun, Zenith, and Natural Order.
That one also is the one that would be really bad if Kassis flashed that in and blocked the Quirion Ranger.
Sure. Sensei's Divining Top from Kassis found another. Gets that moving again. He's down to 9. But Jessup is 1 Terminus from out of resources.
Yeah, he's just all in on the table here, and there's no other way he could have played it.
Well, Kassis did a great job of denying Jessup his card advantage. When Jessup tried to use Zenith to go for Visionary Symbiote, Kassis was ready with removal to stop that.
It looks like he was never in a position to set up Glimpse turn or anything like that, which is the kind of card advantage that he needs if he's going to be in these games.
Green Sun Zenith for 1 by Andrew Jessup. Containment Priest flashed into play in response. So he can try to find some cards. But they're just going to be exiling something.
So Jessup can just remove a creature from his deck if he so desires.
Don't want to draw Llanowar Elves. Get out of there. He'll exile a Nettle Sentinel. Guess that one's worse.
It attacks for more, but it has a criteria required to untap, I suppose.
A swing of the 2 Dryad Arbors. Now, Jessup can return an Arbor to untap the other. Kassis goes to 8. Jessup replays Dryad Arbor and passes the turn, getting very low on damage sources. Predict. Now the play by Kassis. Not really predicting at all. He knows what the card is. It's Counterbalance. I like that Kassis has shown the discipline to get rid of Counterbalance. A lot of times counter plus top is very good against elves. Kassis here recognizing that he doesn't need counter top lock to win this anymore.
Right. He's already seen the Reclamation Sage in Jessup's hand as well. Sees no reason to start a fight over that.
And now Jace the Mind Sculptor set up. And this should be it. So Jace with Brainstorm, you see Kassis has left up 1 white. He has a Terminus in hand that I assume is going to start floating on the top of his deck. With Jace in play, Terminus top floating a Terminus at instant speed. That is the end game in this matchup.
Right.
Another Green Sun Zenith by Jessup. That's not going to work in the face of Containment Priest. Reclamation Sage has no targets. And it looks like Kassis is going to set up a semi-final showdown with our Mono Red Sneak Attack player. Kassis, the first player going to get this win over Jessup. Those wins have been hard to come by this weekend.
Yeah. Jessup 13-1-1 through the Swiss rounds. Think about what he can do. If he can force Terminus here, then he'll be able to Green Sun Zenith and actually have it matter, because the Containment Priest will be off the battlefield, but it doesn't look like it'll be terribly significant, because even if that Terminus happens and he's just, I don't know, Zenith thing for Elvish Visionary, drawing a card, not a lot of significance would be happening there.
Swing here with both Arbors, a block and a bounce with the from the Quirion Ranger. Recast of, that's going to be Reclamation Sage, just needs, put all the creatures in here. Has not yet played the Dryad Arbor that he bounced. Because Sage will target Divining Top, why not? Because he spins the top 3 cards of his deck. Wants to keep that Terminus floating. You see him putting it 1 card down. So in response to Reclamation Sage, Kassis will float a mana and draw off Divining Top. And use that mana to rearrange the top 3 again. It's a way to, So this is a trick you can use the Divining Top to kind of bury the top in your own deck if you'd like. Jessup replays Dryad Arbor, says go. Kassis going to draw. It is the top, of course. And he may just be able to end this one. You see Jace brainstorms. If he puts the Terminus on top and Terminus is away Andrew's creatures, Andrew may just kind of lose the will to keep playing here.
Yeah, Andrew will be extremely far behind at that point. Ely just extremely far behind with, Ely extremely far ahead, rather, with the number of cards that he has in hand. Jessup basically out of resources once the Terminus goes off.
All right. Concluding this game, we are going to get game 3 of the match between John Morawski and Sam Rukas. It is Reanimator versus Miracles.
Here we go back to Jessup. Still just Green Sun Zenith in his hands. He draws for the turn. Looks like a natural order. That one's not going to play against the Containment Priest either. It is a somewhat interesting draw, though. He does still have Quirion Ranger, so if a Terminus does go off, he can at least return a Dryad Arbor to his hand, and then he'd have that, which he could sacrifice to natural order, get a Craterhoof Behemoth on the battlefield, but that's assuming that he's able to make it resolve. I don't know if that's something that he can make happen. Ely has set up counterbalance at this point in time. I believe still has access to a Force of Will.
The number of things that all happen to happen at the same time for Jessup to win this are getting pretty slim. By not pulling the trigger on cards like Terminus, because he's playing this correctly, it's also, we're talking about the difference, I think, between like 99% and 97%.
Right.
Tap, top, and there is the Terminus. So Andrew Jessup's going to lose all the creatures except 1. He returns a Dryad Arbor to his hand with the Quirion Ranger.
Yeah. Now Jessup can Green Sun Zenith. I suppose it'd be for Elvish Visionary here. That would at least get him a card in his hand, assuming he's able to resolve it through this counterbalance. Currently, the top card of Ely's deck is the Sensei's Divining Top, so Ely would have to at least brainstorm to counter this.
With Containment Priest gone, Jessup can try for Green Sun Zenith. is currently on for 3, so he'll have to find a 4 to counter it. But there was a Jace floating in the top cards of Ely's deck. So it's out in his hand now. It looked like a moat as well, so he's got multiple options to counter a 4. He'll use Brainstorm to put one of them on top. He'll show moat. Zenith is countered.
And Jessup already used his Reclamation Sage. That moat should make it impossible for Jessup to win.
Keep playing this game as long as Jessup wants to. Reclamation Sage technically is on the bottom of Andrew's
deck.
deck.
Terminus, sure.
So
Deathrite Shaman also can activate through this. Not that Jessup has access to either of these things currently.
Sure. Kassis will draw moat. And they'll cast it, so Jessup cannot attack anymore. Sensei's Divining Top drawn again. Jace will +2 on Jessup's deck. Look, that's going to be the win con here. Keeps it on top.
Last card is Natural Order. So I suppose he could Natural Order for that Sage to blow up the moat, but then he's still very far behind.
There's still this
also, Ely just has that Jace floating, so the counterbalance is going to hit that one anyway.
It's unlikely Andrew will be able to resolve a spell or attack or draw a good card. He's right now just kind of pushing on the walls of the prison that Ely's put him in, seeing if any of them have give. I think Andrew knows he can't get out of it. He wants to make sure that Ely knows that. So you try a couple different things. On our last feature, it is Jonathan Morawski on Reanimator defeats Sam Rukas. So there will only be one Miracles deck in the top 4 if Ely pulls this one out.
And it's going up against Mono Red Sneak Attack, which is certainly not an ideal matchup.
Morawski 2-1 with Reanimator. He'll be against Grixis Delver in one of our semifinals.
So Jessup goes for the Natural Order. Kassis counters it with his counterbalance, revealing Jace. Now he's just going to Fate Seal his way to victory with Countertop and a Moat backup. I don't think Jessup's going to be able to get out of this
Another
one.
Divining Top. No, I think Kassis also has a hard counter in his hand. There's so many. There's so many things that would have to go wrong. He continues spinning Divining Top.
Jessup clearly does not have a dinner reservation.
We're going to make him earn it.
Demonstrate that you know how to -12 your Jace.
Get your Jace to 12, and then you just start zeroing it. You're like, this is safer.
All right, I'll brainstorm.
No. You have a Jace on 12. Yeah, I know.
Brainstorming is nice, though.
I want to be sure.
This is the Legacy
I need to
Open.
make sure that when I ultimate the Jace that I have more counter spells than you have cards in hand. So I'm gonna brainstorm.
This is the Legacy Open. I came here to brainstorm, so I'm gonna brainstorm.
Why are you brainstorming? Why not? Brainstorm is great.
Zenith for 2 because Jessup knows that Kassis has been floating a 4-mana spell on the top of his deck. Oh, and there's a 3.
Entreat the Angels. That's a 3. It's also on top of his deck for next turn. That's good too.
He's not even gonna do that.
No, Pithing Needle. Yeah, it's fine.
Maybe.
Yeah, just like, okay, stop. Stop. Ely, 2-0. He is the winner with Miracles. Defeats Andrew Jessup. He's been on top of the tournament all weekend.